So you have a dorsal sac, which would be dorsal, a ventral sac, which is going to be ventral. You have a cranial sac, which is going to be more cranial towards the head of the animal here. And then you also have dorsal and ventral caudal blind sacs. So those are going to be caudal. You have a dorsal and ventral caudal blind sac. And then you can kind of see this indentation that's running here, and that would be the left longitudinal groove. So on the left side, left longitudinal groove would be there. Then we're going to move from rumen into reticulum. So reticulum is more cranial, so that's the next portion of the stomach. So reticulum would be here. Then we'll turn it just a little bit. Here you would be looking at a cranial view, so the head of the cow would be facing you. So here you would have reticulum here. You can see the esophagus is going in there. And we'll keep turning. So now we would be turning to the right side, so you'd be on the right side of the cow here. Here we have the omasum. It's kind of big and ball shaped. And then we have the abomasum here. Then also from the right side, the rest of this that you're seeing, so you have omasum and abomasum from the right side, but you're also seeing the rumen here from the right side as well. So you would have the dorsal and ventral sacs here that you're seeing from the right side as well. All right, then we'll go back to the rumen. So I'm going to turn it back to the rumen. And we're going to go ahead and go in and open up the hole and look inside the rumen. So we'll take a closer look inside the rumen.
Okay, now after the rumen's done, now go ahead and transition to the next section.
So now we'll move on into the reticulum. So I'm going to just turn it here so you can see into the reticulum here. So that's the more cranial part. So reticulum, and we're going to go ahead and look inside there and take a closer look at the reticulum.
Okay, and the next section.
After the reticulum, we move into the omasum. So we're going to take a look closer in at the omasum.
Okay, and another section.
After the omasum, we move into the abomasum. So we'll go ahead and take a closer look at the abomasum. Now we're taking a closer look at the rumen. So we're actually looking caudally, and what you're seeing with the green pins is the caudal pillar. And from the caudal pillar, you're going to have dorsal and ventral coronary pillars. And the dorsal coronary pillar is going dorsally, and that would have the blue pin. And then the ventral coronary pillar has the white pin, and that's going ventrally. We're going to just move in and take a closer look so you can see those a little bit closer. So now we're just a little bit closer, and you can see the blue pins are going across where the caudal pillar would be located. And so the caudal pillar is basically in between your dorsal and ventral caudal blind sacs is where you'll find that. Then the dorsal coronary pillar has the blue pin, and that's going dorsally from that caudal pillar. Then you have a ventral coronary pillar that's going ventrally, and that would have the white pin. And now we're going to look at the cranial pillar, which is going to be located more cranially. And so we're looking into the rumen and looking cranially towards the reticulum. And we're going to take a little bit closer look so you can see where those red pins are denoting the cranial pillar. And the red pins are running across the cranial pillar where you would be going into your cranial sac of the rumen. And now we'll move on and take a look at the reticulum. And here we're just taking a close look at the wall of the rumen so that we can see the rumen papillae. And they're just these little leafy-like structures that are attached to the wall. And obviously in a dried specimen, they're not going to be as good as you would see in a real live cow. But you can see the rumen papillae there, and then we'll see the difference between the rumen and the reticulum in the next section. Now we're taking a closer look at the reticulum. And those orange pins that you see lined up there are demarcating the ruminal-reticular fold. So that's the fold in between the rumen and the reticulum. So ruminal-reticular fold has the orange pins, and then the reticulum has this honeycomb texture to it that's very characteristic, The honeycomb texture is very characteristic of the reticulum, so you want to make sure and look at that. And we're going to take a little bit closer look so that we can see the, can I just start this section over? They call them something else on here. and then the reticular groove I missed. Okay. Once we're done with this part, there's yellow pins up here, so I'm going to say we need to look at that.
Yeah, sounds
Okay. So here we're taking a look at the reticulum, and you can see the orange pins that are kind of stretching across there that you're seeing in the background, and those are demarcating the ruminoreticular fold. And that's the fold in between the rumen and the reticulum. So that's the transition point that you're moving from rumen into the reticulum. And then you can see the reticulum has these reticular cells that have this honeycomb appearance to them. So that's characteristic of the reticulum. Then we also need to move in and take a little bit closer look so that we can see the reticular groove. So now we're looking at where the yellow pins are, and those little yellow pins are demarcating the reticular groove. At the top of the groove you would have the cardia, and that's where the esophagus comes in. And then at the bottom of the groove you have the reticulo-omasal orifice. So that's the opening between the reticulum and the omasum. So reticular groove, marked by the yellow pins there. At the top of the groove is the cardia, and at the bottom of the groove is the reticulo-omasal orifice that you're seeing where that hole is. And now we'll move over and take a look at that omasum. All right, here we're looking at the omasum. So we're seeing right into the omasum. This whole wall has been cut so that you can see into the omasum. And you're seeing the omasal laminae, which are distinctive to the omasum. And they kind of are these leaf or sheet-like structures. So the laminae look different in the omasum. And then we also have that reticulo-omasal orifice. I'm just going to turn it a little bit so we can see that hole. And so that hole that we saw was here coming from the reticulum to the omasum. So that's the reticulo-omasal orifice. And then we'll take a look at the abomasum. Here we're taking a look at the abomasum, and that's the final compartment in the ruminant stomach before you move on to the descending duodenum. Before you move on to the duodenum. And here in the abomasum, you can see it's more like a true stomach.
Do that one. Just do this whole section.
Yeah. I don't know what I want to call it. Simple or true stomach, and I don't know what the literature says. Okay. Here we're taking a look at the abomasum, and that's the final compartment of the ruminant stomach before you move into the duodenum. And the abomasum is more like a true stomach, and it doesn't have different distinctive features to it. It's more like a regular stomach you would see in say a dog or something like that. So this is that final compartment, and then it moves on into the intestines. Also on the right side, when you're looking at the rumen, between your dorsal and ventral sacs, you can see this right longitudinal groove. So it's just kind of this groove in between that you're seeing from the outside.